Welcome to the Do This for Life podcast with OEV of Be Truly Faithful. I will be in your ear every Wednesday, encouraging ladies to do love, relationships, family, nation building, and good sex for life. Yes, this is where you get to do this for life, y'all. Woo! So let's go into today's broadcast. Well, thank you all for tuning in to yet another one. And today I want to talk to families, those with children. Even if your children are not school age, I still want to talk to you. And I want to talk to those who have children that are in public schools or private schools or whichever organized schools in the system, one way or another. And I want to give you 5 reasons why Black families need to homeschool more. 5 reasons why Black families need to homeschool more. Now, for those that don't know, my husband and I, of course, we have 5 children, and they are homeschooled. Now, our children have never been in any kind of public school or private school system. We started from the very beginning with our oldest. I actually made it up in my mind before she was 2 years old that she would be homeschooled. And I just remember the constant debates I would have to have with family and friends about homeschooling her, because everyone just believed that you automatically, once you have a child and once they get to a certain age, you put them in daycare if you're going to go back to work, then you put them in preschool, and then of course they go on to public school. But that was not the case with us. I was a part of the La Leche League, and I began to meet so many mothers at that time as a new mom myself. I began to meet so many mothers who homeschooled, and I could not understand why. I was so intrigued, like, why are your children not in school? Why, when we have meetings, your children are here? I understand if they're 3 and under, but I do not understand if they're over 4. Why are they here with us at these meetings? And so I began to listen and ask lots of questions and listen to their responses on why they were homeschooling. And the majority of these ladies were white, by the way. There was only one biracial woman in the group with us. So I was the only Black woman for years, actually, when I was part of the local La Leche League here. For those who don't know what the La Leche League is, that is a breastfeeding group, a support breastfeeding group for breastfeeding moms. And I was a breastfeeding mom. And so they helped me a lot with my first, who was a preemie, and I stuck with them up until about my 3rd, but we remained like Facebook friends and whatnot. But I was going up to meetings all the way until my 3rd child, and once you had, 1 or 2 children and you get the hang of things with, when it comes to nursing, you don't keep going back to the meetings, because the meetings are more for support of mothers who need that kind of support. And I didn't really technically need it. So if they had something outside of those meetings, I would go get together with other moms and their children or whatnot. But to stay on topic here, I began to hear about homeschooling more so with them, and I could not understand why they did that. And these ladies had multiple children at the time when I met them. There were just a few like me who were new moms, but most of them had been moms for longer than me. And I wanted to know why so many, of those outside of my own race were homeschooling, because in my race, that was just not even thought of or talked about. So I ended up becoming the first in my family to homeschool. And it was a journey, because there was a fight. Because, I guess we fight what we don't understand. I guess we turn our nose up at what we don't understand. And so many didn't understand. They thought as soon as she got to a certain age, my oldest, that she should be put in school. And it was a fight, especially when she turned 6. Now, being a Black family, it wasn't the easiest, because the support wasn't always there from other Black families. So I had to get my support from those in the La Leche League, those ladies there. And I had to get my support from those that were not of the same race. I just could not find any homeschooling families in my area who were Black. Little disheartening, but we ended up being the example. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons Black families need to homeschool. In light of recent events with the shooting in Florida, which was horribly disgusting of the thug who did it, one thing I did not understand is how he got into the school so easily. And with all other shootings, that's kind of like the MO. They get into the school easily. It's not a fight, really, to get into the school. All right. And I'm not saying you should homeschool to avoid things like this. These things don't actually happen like maybe other crimes happen. They don't happen as much as other crimes happen, but they do and they happen to be more catastrophic. And they ruin lives. Lives are lost. It messes with the psyche of children who was in there screaming. This happens to them at such an early age. I don't like things like that. But the one thing I'm always thinking is, how in the world did this thug get into the school so easily? Where's the security? Where's the protection? I've never been for when schools advertise gun-free zones, because to me that's a sign to say, come try something. Now, I'm not saying that's technically what they're doing. I'm saying that I've never liked that. It should at least say, hey, we're secured, we're protected here. If you want to try, you're going to be lit up something. I'm not saying it should say that exactly, y'all. We didn't need all that. But anyway, I can understand how he was able to get in so easily. Did someone let him in? What's going on? Because they knew him, what's going on. So I just want to encourage some families today on why they should homeschool. And some of these reasons are the reason why we homeschool. So in no particular order here, let's get started. Number one, racial protectionism. I know some of you are like, I've never heard of that, right? Protectionism? Yeah, it's actually a movement that's actually started. I believe it first circulated around 2012. And what it means is like racial bullying, okay? Because it happens a lot in the public school system, if y'all didn't know, and even private school. Racial bullying happens a lot, more than you can believe. And it's not just coming from among their peers, it's also coming from teachers as well. Have you seen the viral videos that show a teacher calling a black student dumb, or in another one stupid, or in another one the N-word? Have y'all seen those videos? Did y'all know that's the norm? They get so upset with these students, or so annoyed, that they get all the way in their feelings and lose it and end up calling them dumb or stupid. Y'all look up those viral videos. I'm not making any of this up. White kids, when they get into it, don't get called cracker or honky. They don't get called those names. Now, they may get called dumb or stupid, but only black children, when the teachers are annoyed with them. I'm not saying all teachers do this. I'm saying you can look and research the many times it's happened in the videos. Our children get called the N-word. It's something dealing with our race that we get called. Now, oftentimes, yes, those teachers get fired. Some only reassigned. But the bottom line is that's racial bullying. Yeah. That's racial bullying. You're the teacher. You're the older one here in all of this. And yet you're calling a child, a black child, the N-word. A word that has so many negative connotations, especially coming from anyone outside the black race. So how does a teacher get to do that? How is that even inside the teacher? Have you ever thought about that? Don't just look at what the teacher said and did. Look also at, why was it in them to even say it? Anybody ever thought about that? So, anyway, the racial protectionism movement was started by Emma Mazama. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, but she has been a professor of African American Studies at Temple University in Philadelphia. And so in 2012, she wrote about this. And she began to share how studies show that black students are less likely to be recommended for gift and advanced classes. And then multiple studies, y'all, actually show that black children, especially boys, are disproportionately likely to be suspended or arrested, okay, on the school grounds. On the school grounds for the same things that other races do, other children and other races do. But we're the ones, it's our children that's more likely to be arrested or suspended. And that's because the public school system has an inability, and that inability is for the representation of black students or meeting the needs of our black students. I'm going to talk a little bit more as it come up about integration, back when our ancestors fought for, civil rights movements and things like that, to be integrated. And when I look back, hindsight is 2020. I believe even some of the civil rights activists that are alive today who did a lot of the protesting back then, just like Martin Luther King Jr. said before he died, I believe many of them look back now and feel like integration wasn't the best. That maybe we were better off separate because of what continued to happen to us when we were integrated. Have y'all ever looked in history how they continue to have some the Daisy and the Little Rock Nine? Did y'all ever read into those? Did y'all look into those? Does anybody of today, this is my point. Too many of our Black children today who have grown into adult, too many of our adults today don't even know. All they know is a little bit about MLK and a little bit about Malcolm X. And by the way, most children in public school systems don't even get taught about Malcolm X. But you ask the average adult in their 20s today, they don't even know about the Little Rock Nine. They don't even know. They don't even know about the Black Panther Party of self-defense. They do know about slavery, and that's about it. And you're wondering, what the hell are they teaching our children in schools? What are they teaching? What did they teach you now that you're an adult and you don't know these things? You learn more from Google and others from social media than you did in school. The system was never set up for us to be in it. Remember, our ancestors integrated those schools. They had a teaching and a curriculum already set up that did not include Blacks. Over the years, they came up with Black American studies and things like Black history and things like that. But that's one class. Okay, so we're misrepresented in the school system, and we're treated as though we are not as intelligent as our white, Latino, even though they get the end of the short end of the stick like we do, but our Asian American counterparts, we're not treated the same. We're treated as if our students, our children, our Black children are treated as if we cannot perform as well as others. And therefore, the standards for our children are lowered. They're lowered because when they think our children are stupid, they don't think all of our children are stupid. But overall, there's a stigma attached to Blacks anyway. There's stereotypes attached to us anyway. So when we send our children in there, unless they are amazingly bright and intelligent according to their standards, then the rest of the children are treated like they're just not the smartest. This has been proven time and time again, okay? So racial protectionism, meaning, also I'll go a little bit further in that for those that don't understand. Think about the saggy pants laws. I remember when I was for it because I just couldn't stand the look. But you do know it targets Black boys and Black men. Most of those who sag their pants are Black boys and Black men. You may not like to see boys or men sag their pants, but this is something that Black kids do. It's not about why they do it. Okay, not at this point. At this point, it's not about that. It's about there's a law being made and telling them what to wear. So they have these laws set up against us, against our culture even. So the saggy pants laws target Black kids also in school. Black boys are always getting suspended for that. White boys normally do not, even though there are some that sag their pants. And what about the hair laws? Did y'all hear about the girl who had natural hair? And the school system said, no, you can't have this type of hair. It's an eyesore. Y'all look these things up. We can't have ethnic hair. She had natural hair. Afros can be too big. Oh, people can't see behind you. Oh, we can't reposition the desk. Maybe put her in the middle row or something. No, she has to sit all the way in the back. Or if our locks are a certain type of way, it's considered dirty because they're doing free flowing locks. I mean, do y'all understand the racial protection? This is why we should homeschool our children more. This is why. Racial bullying, to avoid school-related racism. This is one way to racially protect our children. Hence the name racial protectionism. All right? So did y'all know that it's on the rise, though? More Black parents are keeping their kids out of school entirely. Racial protectionism. So that's one reason. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on that one because that's one that you often don't hear. You don't hear about racial protectionism, and we need to hear about that more. Another reason more Black families should homeschool their children is Black history is regurgitated and not taught. There's no real Black history being taught in the public school system. Now, I know you got so many people out there that are saying, oh, you should teach your own children. This is true. I totally believe that. But I believe that in more ways than one. Why teach my own children at home and send them back out to a school system that is just going to work very hard to undo my teaching, or have my child to question and challenge the authority of the teacher because I'm teaching them to speak up and speak out? I'm teaching them the truth about our history. Why do I teach them at home one thing and then they go to school and everything that we're teaching them is being dismantled and just torn down, and it's causing the children to be in conflict, or it's teaching our children to sit by and say nothing so they won't get in trouble? Because once you teach a child the truth, it's in them, especially if you continually teach them the truth about the history and who they are. And then they have to go to a public school system where they become so aware and so quote unquote woke that they're like, why do I have to sit here and hear this when I know what mommy and daddy are teaching me at home is totally different? What auntie is teaching me is totally different. I'm being taught about my true history at home, and I come to school and all I get to hear about is MLK and the civil rights movement. That's it. So I'm raising my hand asking, what about Malcolm X? I'm raising my hand asking, what about Assata Shakur? What about the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense? What about Marcus Garvey? Why are we not hearing about these people too? Why would I continue to send my children to a place that doesn't even acknowledge many of these people in our history? And then when you begin to tell them about African history, the teachers are oftentimes clueless. Have you ever seen the movie Boys in the Hood? Well, one of the sons in the movie, there are two main characters in the movie. When they start out as boys, one of them is the son of a man who schools his child at home. But he's in public school because there's shared custody with the mother, and I'm assuming the mother wanted him in public school. So his dad literally works extremely hard to educate him, to school him on his history. Let's just give him, not just history though, then just give you an example, because he schools him on business, economics, building your own, all of those things. So the son is in class one. He looks to be about 10 years old at this point. And so he's in school and he's talking and he's saying things that's making the class laugh. And the teacher's like, well, do you want to teach the class then? And so he got up to teach the class. And he literally got up and taught the class what the teacher was not teaching. And he showed them on the map about Africa. He began to share things that the children had never heard. It was predominantly Black school at that, with a white teacher. So this is basically what we're doing. We're doing this with our children. So I believe in teaching at home, but I do not believe in teaching at home and then sending them right back out to either dismantle, to undo what I've done, or to challenge what I've done. And now it puts our children in like in a line, in a crossfire of what to believe. And they're getting one thing at school that counters what I'm teaching them at home. So no, this is a reason to homeschool. Black history is not really being taught in schools. It's being regurgitated. They teach about the same things over and over again. Even in predominantly Black cities like Atlanta, they don't go through the depths of the African history, how our ancestors got here. A lot of them still started slavery. But I will say that Atlanta probably teaches more about Black history than most. But even then, it's still not enough. It's still not enough. Our children still don't know. Do you know there are 20 and 30-year-olds that don't know who Marcus Garvey is? I just had someone in their mid-20s tell me they never heard of George Stinney until 2018. In their mid-20s? How do we not know who George Stinney is? But you know what? I also didn't find out about George Stinney until I was in my 20s. Why are we finding this out in our 20s? My children know about George Stinney, and they're not even older than 11. They need to know how corrupt our nation has been towards our people. Public school doesn't teach them that. So what do? We send them to school. And this is not a slight to anyone, but really this is what was done to me and my parents and others. I'm going to tell you about my parents in a second. But do y'all understand? We're telling our children, don't talk, don't do this, just go and get your lesson, get your work, do this. But at home, we want them to speak up and speak out. That's contradicting. And that's very conflicting. So if you want to teach them about their history, they need to know more than just MLK. They need to know about the kings and queens of West Africa. So Black history is not being taught. It's being regurgitated. Our children don't know who they are. So you have to teach them that at home. And when you do teach them that at home, they're going to struggle at school. I don't know how many times I've heard it. If you're raising articulate, intelligent children and you're developing them at home and you're teaching them to speak out and to speak up, it's going to be hard for them to go into a school system that does not want them to do that. They want them to sit down and be still, shut up and be quiet and learn what they're teaching. And they can only ask questions about that. And then if they ask questions that challenge their authority on what's being taught, they're labeled as problematic, problem child, behavior problems. Happens all the time. So one of the things we get to do in our homeschool is we get to teach them real African history. We get to teach them who they are, because no one can tell your child who they are but you. And you need to know who you are and able to teach who they are. Okay? All right. Number 3, we don't even trust the system. Really think about it. I talk to so many parents about school, public schools and private schools. Do you know most of them don't even trust the public school system, but they send their children anyway? I understand. Got to make money, got to pay these bills, got to make sure the children have what they need. But ultimately, listen, this is what we're really doing. We're sending our children to a place that we don't even trust, that can educate them properly. We don't even trust that can teach them properly. We don't even trust that they have our children's well-being in mind. We know these things up front, yet we send them anyway. Because we got to make that money. We got to pay these bills. I get it. I know why we do it. But on the other hand, I do not understand why we continually do it when we know that the system, we don't trust this system. And listen, our ancestors, let me tell y'all something. I said I was going to tell y'all something about my parents later, right? And here's why I'm going to do it. There's a school here called Woodlawn High School. Many people I know graduated from Woodlawn, my parents being one. But did you know my mom was integrated into Woodlawn High School? They took her from an all-black high school to an all-white high school along with other black students. And they're on the buses. And when they got to this public school, this is in the 70s. When they got to this public school, do you know they were hosed? And this was in the 70s, y'all. So do you know when the buses of black children showed up at this all-white school, there were people there with water hoses on and hosed the buses, y'all. That's not that long ago. This happened right here in the South. Yet, what do? We kept sending black children there to integrate. Now, follow me where I'm going with this. Follow me. We kept sending black children there. And then they started adding little things like black history and things like that. They definitely wanted them there, a lot of black kids there, to play sports. So that curriculum of that school was never meant for black people. So we integrated into schools, into a school system that never had us in mind. So that school system, which is where over 90% of the education of our children comes from those of us who send our children to public school, that system is not teaching our children how to make it in this world. It's teaching them how to submit to their authority in this world. It's teaching them how to become workers for them. Y'all hear what I'm saying? It's not teaching them who they are, where they're really from. It's not. Listen to this. Many who send their children to public school systems, it's been stated over and over again that they don't trust public schools. They don't trust public education. They don't trust the policies and procedures that's been set in place. They feel like it's against their children, not for. They don't trust the tests that they have their children to take. They don't trust the educational institutions to help their children be all that they can be. And then they know that black children are so underrepresented in gifted education that blacks of all income levels are desperate to get the educational rigor and challenge that they think their children need. But this is what integration did. Hindsight is 2020. I believe now many of the civil rights movement who are still alive have said at one time or another that it might not have been the best thing. Even MLK, before he died, said he believed that he's led our people into a burning house. When they were outside the house, yes, things were hard already, but we had a lot of our own. But we were educating our children, giving them their true history and whatnot. But instead, with integration, we probably stopped a lot of that. So basically, the system was not set up for us. It wasn't made for us, nor was it made by us. So how can they really meet the needs of us, education-wise? Oftentimes, they cannot. Number 4, another reason why Black families should homeschool is that public schools expect less from Black students overall. They do. It's literally a culture of low expectations. And it surrounds Black students on a daily basis. I don't know if you all know, but there is a tremendous achievement gap between Blacks and white. Tremendous. And it's like the idealized American vision of being able to achieve whatever they put their minds to. It doesn't really apply to those Blacks who are not faring well in this system that wasn't made for them. And that when a Black child messes up, they're punished more harshly in criminalized classrooms. They're constantly reminded that society has been extremely unkind to the Black community. Yet at the same time, they're reminded that they must know their place in society and that demanding equal treatment is disruptive, uncouth, and unacceptable. Public schools expect less from Black students. Okay, if you've never heard of Penelope Trunk, she talks a lot about Blacks and homeschooling on her site, even though she's not Black, but she's big on homeschooling. So as I was telling you all earlier about some of the viral videos, did y'all see the one where the Black girl was in her chair and the cop came in? This was not a security guard, I found out later, but a cop, y'all, a white male cop came in and literally slung her out of that chair so violently. Why do we keep sending our children to be punished harshly in criminalized classrooms? We got to think about this stuff because it's real. It's real. I want to give you something to think about so you can make decisions. So that was number 4. My 5th and final reason, and I have so many more, but I'm only giving you 5 today. One of the biggest reasons we should homeschool is because it solves so many educational problems. Because we have a lot of educational problems in the public school system, and yes, the private school too. I know some people think that private schools are the solution, and I'm like, no. It might be a better option than public schooling, but the stereotypes and the biases are also there, okay? If you are socioeconomically depressed and you go to private school, how do you get there? You're going to go there on a voucher, some type of scholarship. Everybody knows it. You're always treated differently. And what does that do? That's just throwing a poor kid into a rich school, and that alone creates more problems. So it's not the answer. So another reason we should homeschool is that it's solving a lot of our educational problems. In fact, it's solving most of our educational problems. Okay, so how about when learning to read? When Black children learn to read, they can do so in a way that's relevant to them and not a way that is prescribed by the system. Let me give you an example. My oldest son is 7 years old. And when he learned how to read, I taught him from an iPad with an app, and he would roll around on the floor learning how to read. And yet he can read on a 7th grade level. 7th, and he's 7. I taught him at age 4. I didn't wait like I did with my older 2 daughters to teach him how to read. I taught them at age 6. I should have started them earlier. I taught him at age 4. Why? Because he was ready. That solves a problem. Why are we delaying children from learning when they're ready? And again, we can say this all day. We can do that at home. Again, why do we do it at home and then send them right back out to undo what I did? It's not complimenting. It's challenging what I did or what I do. What about math? One of the hardest subjects in public school system for many Black children is math. It's probably hard for most, but especially Black children. Many times the math teacher does not have the best interests of the Black student. So they get to learn math at home in ways that you like to teach them, in ways that you know your child understands. If one likes rap, if one likes sports, you get to use those things. Because at the public school system, even private, they have to go by a curriculum. And I know there are some special teachers out there who have done that, who have done these things I'm talking about. But they're like a needle in a haystack. That's not most schools. It's like, have you ever seen the airline stewardess? Is it Southwest? And they're like rapping and singing and getting those on the flight involved. You don't see that on every airlines. I've flew several different airlines. I've never seen that happen. So it's not the norm. And that's my point. You'll have some teachers out there teaching children math in an amazing way, and they get it, or teaching them science or whatever in an amazing way, and they get it, but that's not the norm. Most are going to go by a curriculum. It's going to be one that's boring to the children. It's one that doesn't have their best interests at heart. And so they'll end up getting failing grades. So that was the reason why I brought up about the airlines. You don't see those type of stewardess on every airline. They are few and far between, just like certain types of teachers that specialize in teaching their students differently. But even then, you still got 20, 30 students in a classroom. All of them do not learn the same. And that's what I also love about homeschool. It's solving the problem of my children don't all learn the same. So I know how to teach them differently. Sometimes I can group them together. Sometimes I have to do it individually. And they don't have to stay after school for this. It's that time during the day or at night or whatever time that I want to do it. So it solves the way they learn math. What about history? We've already talked about history. It's going to solve the way they learn history. They are free to develop their unique talents to the best of their abilities. My oldest daughter is into fashion. She literally creates fashions for her dolls. Who knows if she will do something like that and put it on the market for the doll market or become a fashion designer? I don't know. But that's not there or available in public school. And if it was, it would be only as an extracurricular activity. But it's a part of who she is. She loves doing that. She's very creative. So that it solves so many problems. And I can think of so many problems we have education-wise. You get to pick and choose what your children are learning. Like, okay, we're going to include something about religion. We're going to choose our history. We're going to choose math. We're going to choose economics. We're going to choose entrepreneurship. You see what I mean? We're going to choose languages, different languages. We're going to choose traveling and field tripping. And we're going to choose all of these things. All right, we are done with yet another podcast, even though this was only part 1, and part 2 will be on the next podcast. So you want to make sure you tune back in so you can get a notification of when I put up part 2. Because part 2, I will be going in sharing 5 ways you can get the ball rolling and starting to homeschool if you are sincerely interested in getting started. I'm going to help you all get going. Okay? All right. Thank you again for tuning in to the Do This for Life podcast with OEB and BTF. And I'm going to be here in your ear next Wednesday again. So don't miss out. I want to thank Ben Summer for the music once again. And thank you to all those who are sharing my podcast. I see y'all. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, now don't forget to go to build-a-nation.com to get your free checklist on getting started in building a nation. That's build-a-nation.com to get your free PDF checklist on getting started in building a nation. And if you need to set up an appointment with me about your life, relationships, sex, any of those things, or even more, go to workwithoev.com. That is workwithoev.com. And let's get an appointment set today. All right? It's been real, y'all. Can't wait to hang out with you again next time. Much love.